What's good, everyone? I am here with my boy Eric Walters. My name is Wali Shah, and this is a little bit about our upcoming book called Call Me Out.
Hold on, what's it? I'm your boy? You're actually young enough to be my son.
This is the OG in Canadian literature. So I figured maybe I'll start with some questions and some thoughts. Eric, you've written hundreds of books at this point. I don't know, thousands maybe. You've been around since Jesus was in school. So what inspired you, or what was the thought behind wanting to write a book with a Muslim guy?
I didn't want to write a book with a Muslim guy. I wanted to write a book with you. We go back to when you were 19, which was like 6 months ago. No, it's like we go back when I was the Mississauga Writer of the Year and you were the up-and-coming talent. And I just thought, this guy's got it. And someday, maybe we'll do something. And I had an idea, and I thought, this is the guy I want to approach to write this book.
Right. I remember that day, actually. My sister was there, and she actually got up and did a poem for the first time, which was really sweet. I've read so many of your books, but one book that really stayed with me that I read when I was a child now was Bifocal, written by you and Deb Ellis.
Yeah.
That book was the first time I ever saw representation of a Pakistani character in a book.
Isn't that amazing that when you look at this country and the diversity of our country, that would be the first book you read with a Pakistani Muslim character, and it wasn't even written by a Pakistani Muslim person.
Absolutely.
And then Deb does her research. Deb is a great writer. She's a good friend. She's such a caring person. But people need to see themselves in stories.
What made you write that book, if I may ask? What was the intention behind?
There was an issue in Mississauga where a number of high school kids were arrested, part of a conspiracy. I think they called the Mississauga, the GTA 17 or something. And those 2 high school kids were arrested. It was found they weren't part of the conspiracy. They were eventually let go, but they weren't found innocent. Their charges were stayed, which means you can go away, and if you don't talk about it, we won't talk about it. I just thought there's more to the story than that.
And we've seen so many instances of Islamophobia or discrimination towards Muslim people in particular. I mean, we talk about Canada being very diverse and being a lot better than the States per se or other instances, but we definitely have our issues here in Canada, right?
Every country has issues. I'm amazed when people say, oh, there's no systemic racism in Canada. There's systemic racism in every country. Why would we be different? Even if we're better than most, it's like saying, our cancer isn't as bad as your cancer. Well, it's still cancer. We still got to try and fix it.
Right.
And one of the things they say is either you meet people or you read about them, and that's the way you get rid of racism. And people move to tolerance. And I don't like the word tolerance, by the way. I tolerate the Toronto Maple Leafs.
They did good this year, though.
Second round. Give me a break. I don't tolerate people. I accept and love people.
Right.
And I think people reading this book, like, it's important that Muslims are going to read this book and see themselves. They're going to see representation.
Right.
But it's important that people who have no contact with Muslims see this book and realize who Al is. See him as a person.
Right. And so for those who are tuning on, maybe that haven't read the book yet or have no idea about it, Al, or Ali, is the main character in the book, and he's going through this coming-of-age struggle. And he's figuring out what it means to be Pakistani and Muslim, have a best friend that's white named Zach, and growing up, along with all these other things that are happening in his life. Now, this was my first book that I ever wrote, and really an honor to write this with you. I wonder, throughout this process, was there anything that really stuck out to you, anything that you really remember, or anything that was really fun for you to do or participate in or get a chance to experience while we did this?
Well, it's important for people to realize this is a partnership.
Right.
And taking your spoken word and trying to craft a narrative on it, and then you working the narrative and changing plot lines and writing those, and me having a chance to write a little spoken word poetry. It's been a great experience.
What did we call you? We called you
white chocolate. White chocolate. But it's just an experience for me to go through there. And while I hope you've grown through this process, I've grown as well. I've learned things. And one of the things that I always jokingly say to people, I'm a method writer. I like to experience what my characters experience. So fasting with you during Ramadan was pretty special. Although, let's be honest, I fast for one day.
So let's...
One day.
So this is going to be something I really wanted to touch on, because I think what really makes a difference in our world, as you said before, is not someone just simply saying, I tolerate you. I understand what you're going through. But people actually taking a step in and saying, I want to be in your shoes. I want to empathize with you.
I'm going to walk in your shoes.
So when you said, Wali, I want to fast with you in Ramadan. I want to know what it's like. That with this whole process, Muslims go through this for 30 days every single year in Ramadan. What made you call me and say, Wali, I want to fast with you?
Well, first off, let's be honest. I'm not doing it for 30 days. I did it for a day. And
Not a part-time Muslim, guys.
Having no food for a day is hard. From sunrise till sunset, having no liquids.
Yeah.
That is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a 14-hour day.
Yeah.
I could really feel it. Interestingly, what I loved is in the story, Ali's class fasts
Yeah.
in solidarity, and one of our beta classes
Yes.
fasted for the day. The non-Muslim kids did what the non-Muslim kids did in the book, and they fasted.
And that class was also, funny enough, a class at Camilla Road Public School, which is the school that is the setting of our book and also the school that
You went to.
I went to as a kid. So how cool was that? So on the topic of fasting, because I really appreciated that, what is your vision going forward as we take a stand against Islamophobia, as we stand in solidarity with many Muslims that have struggled? You know, I think about the London family, I think about the Quebec mosque shooting. What do you hope, or what do you want to see as in terms of allyship with Muslims going forward as we do this book?
We've talked about launching this book next year, 2 days into Ramadan. And what I'd really love is to find 100 people, non-Muslims, across the country who'll fast with us that day. And what would be lovely is to launch the book that night, breaking bread with those people, and sharing the book with them. Can you imagine that power? You need to walk in people's footsteps to see what it's like.
That would be incredible.
It would be.
And to be there with brothers and sisters and people of all different religions, right?
But that's the thing. We're all brothers and sisters.
There you go.
And we've got to rise above those and realize that our differences are so minor compared to who we are as people.
Exactly.
And our totality, we're brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping this book will bring about that sense of unity and people to understand each other better than they do now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have this, one of the interesting things about Islam that I loved finding out when I really took a deep dive myself and experienced and learned more about my religion was that Jesus is a very commonly quoted prophet and in Islam that many Muslims don't even know about. Abraham, right?
Mm-hmm. Father of the three religions.
Absolutely. So we have so much common ground between other religions that sometimes people might not even know or understand because of some of the misconceptions that exist in the world about who we are, but also within our own community about who others are.
Yes.
So this is that step forward, and I'm really, really proud.
I want this to move beyond tolerance. I want understanding. I want acceptance. I want a little love.
So speaking on tolerance, beyond tolerance, speaking of love, can I teach you how to say our customary greeting?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Okay.
So here's taking a stand, right, and really doing it.
Okay.
So what we say when we greet each other is called the greeting of peace, right? So we say Assalamu alaikum. Sure, want to give that a try?
Assalamu alaikum.
No. Good try though.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
And so what that means is, may peace be upon you. And then the response is, wa alaikum salam. Want to give that a try?
One more time.
Wa alaikum
Walaikum
salam.
salam.
So salam is peace. And so really it's a greeting of peace. And I know that Christians have a very similar...
Almost exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost exactly the same. But that's the commonality.
Yeah. Peace be with you and with you.
And also with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's really something that really inspires me and reminds me that we have so much more in common with each other than in contrast. I want to talk a little bit about the idea that there's going to be a kid like Ali, like the main character, who's going to read this book.
Yeah.
And maybe one day get a chance to look back and say, that was the book for me, the way that bifocal was for me. And I think about that moment. I think about all the kids out there that may be reading this book in the future and how powerful that will be. Is there anything that you want to say to the kids that will read this, that will get a chance to, experience the story that we've created? And what do you want them to take away from that?
I want you to take away the sense of our commonality, that we're brothers and sisters, that we need to go beyond to actually caring for each other. It's one of the wonderful things about this country we live in. people have come from all over. It doesn't matter where you come from. We're all Canadians.
Yeah.
We're all equal. We're all trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. Is there any favorite part from the book that you want to give a shout out to, or
I'm kind of biased. I like the poetry.
the poetry part? Okay.
But there's certain moments where I remember we were doing a beta test, and some kid said, "I knew Wali had to write that part because only a Muslim could write that part." I'm thinking, well, I wrote that part. In writing the book, you try and get inside the other character. Yeah. And I think you understand Zach the way I understand Ali, and we wrote the whole thing.
Anything else you want to share with everybody?
Well, my favorite part of the book in so many ways was in co-writing, I get to read your stuff. So reading the poetry was amazing, inspirational, sometimes brought me to tears. Actually, why don't you read him a poem from the book, from your heart?
So my favorite one that I really enjoyed in terms of the creative process was that last one. And so I've got that one here.
Beautiful.
That I want to close this off with. So this is the one at the end that Ali writes and shares at a very special moment. No spoilers.
I'm going off camera. This is you.
Cool. Let's do this. There's a reason you are here today. You were called and you came. You know there's darkness in the world, but it's a world that you can change. Each of us are a candle, and our gifts are the flame, a spark of light that no dark can contain. Let me explain what I see. There's so many different stories in front of me, and you gotta decide the person you want to be. Maybe you lost a loved one, or you're a refugee, or maybe you got problems that people will never see. But it's pain and empathy that call us to destiny. Just hear it from me. When I was younger, I used to doubt myself like crazy. And sometimes I still do. It's crazy, but so true. I was sitting in a room just like all of you. My teacher smiled at me and said, "I'm so happy that you're here. I know the great example you can be for all your peers." Now pause. Hold on. Me? Last name Khan, first name Ali? I told her, "You must be thinking of someone else. I'm not really that smart. I mean, I want to change the world, but I don't know where to start." And what she told me is the same advice that I'll give you. You don't have to sing or dance to tackle an issue. Some people build walls to hide what they've been through, but I want you to stand up and help others stand up with you. Teach others through your example in everything that you do. I know you want to change the world, but first you got to change you. In a world as dark as this, choose to be kind and let your virtues light the path for anyone left behind. And this journey isn't easy, and you'll fall from time to time, but you have to walk the path if you want to help the blind. So if you're with me, hands up. Look me in the eyes. If you're with me, hands up. Through the lows and highs. If you're with me, hands up. Just focus on the prize. If you're with me, hands up. Because together, we will rise. Thank you. Eric, come back in here. And I think we're going to close it off there. But what an amazing journey. I loved writing this book. I enjoyed this process so much. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity and for everyone. Our book is going to come out in early 2024, I think March.
Yep,
Around March.
Join us. Join us for the journey.
Absolutely.
Because it's just starting.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Peace, everyone.
Take care.